proactive solutions that I've kind of added to my toolkit are listening to podcasts where I really like Brene Brown or Glennon Doyle, people who talk about real things. And I'm not just talking about like any type of podcast. Like for me, it's been helpful to hear some of my own experiences or issues like reiterated in a way that I guess it's validating, but also to hear different perspectives. It's been helpful for me a lot. Something else that I've started using a lot is the Calm app, which isn't free. You do have to pay. It's like a year subscription. I think it's like $70 for a year or something, or you could do it by the month. But anyway, it's like a meditation app. I struggle with meditation. I don't know if it has to do with like me being neurodivergent or just like meditation is difficult in general, but my mind never stops going. And so when I sit down and I'm like, all right, I'm going to do the meditation, I have to do it through the Calm app with like a guided meditation because I just simply am not at the point where I could do that on my own. And I still struggle with those a lot. But there are some guided meditations on there that are just really helpful, both proactively and reactively, because they have different types of categories on there. Another thing that I've started doing in the last like 3 years, which I never thought I would do, is reading tarot cards. I don't know if any of you've ever done that or like ever had your tarot cards read, but they're really cool. Like it's one of the most interesting and like helpful forms of self-care I've ever really done, because each card has like a meaning. And then if you have like a question or something on your mind, it's like it gives guidance in a way that, I don't know, like a different perspective on your issue. And I've always found that's been really helpful. Another couple things I do is I listen to a lot of music. I used to be a musician. I guess I still am. I don't know. So I used to play clarinet, and I really love music. So to listen to like orchestral or just like different band music is something that's relaxing to me and helps to calm my nervous system. Additionally, I like to journal. I do a lot of like art journaling, or just overall art projects, anything to like work with my hands, because I dissociate a lot. Like one of my biggest coping mechanisms is to not be in myself. So to just kind of like check out, and that's helpful when you need to check out, like during a traumatic experience, that's what you got to do. But it's not helpful for the long run to just be checked out all the time. So I've really been working, especially lately, on being intentional about like, this is my body, like giving myself a hug, or just like there's different tapping exercises you can do to like bring you back to your body. Being really mindful when I eat, like taste the food and like feel the texture, just stuff like that to like bring me back into my body. Those things keep me proactive in my healing until I have to be reactive.
Some proactive things I do for my healing journey are things like yoga, weightlifting, cooking well, and eating well. This last month, I've been moving from North Florida to Orlando, so we've been eating out a lot. And I've been in this apartment for 2 weeks, and we've been able to eat real food for about 1 week, and I feel so much better. Last week was ridiculous, and there was something that happened, and I realized we need to find the dishes, we need to find our pots and pans, and we need to go get groceries. And it's been like, when I eat well, I'm just able to think more clearly and I'm more stable. Other things include like reading cards, like Cassie said, making sure I have time for myself to be alone and to be quiet. I homeschool my son, so I'm with him all day, every day, and I love him so much. But always being on it's just a lot. It's hard. So I make sure that I have time for myself. And then I also make sure I have time for my friends, so I have playtime too. That helps keep me sane. But that's one thing that, growing up as a survivor, that's not part of your everyday life, or at least it wasn't for me. So I make sure that I have time for myself. I try to, like Cassie mentioned, being in touch with your body so that I don't disassociate. Things like hypnosis, tapping. Oh, one thing too is getting outside. I'm a homebody. I like to stay home. If I could stay in my little bubble all day, every day, that would be great. But lately, since we moved here, we have been making sure to get up and get outside, go walk around, go to the pool. And that's super helpful, and just keeping my spirit up and being happy, because I'm pretty much a night owl, so that, I like it dark, but when that's prolonged, you need sunshine, just like plants do. So
I would say for myself, I have to be super careful in general about stress because I unfortunately have a hormone condition worsened by stress. So on a day-to-day basis, even outside of triggers, I have to focus on trying to do anything. So yoga, and things like that are big ones for me, as well as like trying to eat um, very specific foods that are like make me feel good, don't mess up anything for me. Um, it's just it's kind of a balancing act. I try to keep a routine without being too rigid that it's too much if anything shifts, and I try to keep my environment kind of chill and calm. And like for me, that is an aesthetic that I'm sure is even just visible from what's behind me, but like keeping it where the colors are calm and chill or make me smile. I think TikTok is currently calling it dopamine decor as like a trend or something. And anything like that. So there's art everywhere. There's lots of colors, orange and green, and anything that makes it so that as soon as I kind of step into my environment, it's chill. It like anything that just adds one thing to make me smile, one thing to make it just feel like this little safety bubble. And then when I'm in here, I have like a record collection, but also like Spotify and all of these like chill, calm music in the background, or like indie folk music that just kind of like when you're in a coffee shop and it just creates like an ambiance, anything that makes me feel chill here. And then just doing things to maintain my happiness really is the best thing I found for, proactive healing. So whether that's hobbies, like art or knitting or talking with friends, or I really like hiking, and exploring and like community focused things like garbage cleanup projects, and making time for that and making time to also just like chill and sit with myself is the best kind of balancing act to making sure that I am able to take care of myself enough that it's harder for like a trigger to spiral, or harder for like a bad day to turn into like the worst week of my life and things like that.
So I really echo a lot of the sentiments that have already been said. One of the other proactive things that I do for me, the traumaversary of what happened when I was in college, I try to be really mindful of that date and prepare myself knowing what may arise. And so really creating this like tender little love nest for my house, or within my house and in my home during that time, making sure that I've got Epsom salts if I need to take a bath, making sure that I have the space and the time. I love to go for walks. I'm kind of, if I'm having a bad day, literally give me some tea and send me outside for a walk and I'll be like a new human again. So really creating that space in my schedule already, knowing that I will need it during that traumaversary.
So this is a little bit proactive, but also for the reactive. One thing I like to make sure I do is let my friends know kind of that I don't have to tell them like these are my triggers, but I do let them know I become triggered sometimes, and sometimes I do this or I dissociate or whatever, and this is what it looks like, and that's kind of just because you don't get to pick and choose when you become triggered. And unfortunately, a lot of like pop culture is triggering to me. Like my friends will be like, hey, let's watch this TV show, put something on, and like first episode has like a rape scene, and I'm like, okay. So um, what I do is you know, I let my friends know that they can expect stuff like that maybe to happen so they can help if and when things happen. Um, some things that are helpful for me in the moment when I'm triggered are like my dogs. Having them with me is very, very helpful. Uh, I like to limit sensory input, like all of it. So I turn off the lights. I have earplugs that I wear, loop earplugs. They're my favorite ever. And they just kind of like limit noise, but you can still hear talking. So I don't have to hear like the air conditioning and like everything else, because sound is triggering to me when I'm already triggered. Like other input just makes it worse. Another thing is I have this weighted axolotl plushie that someone had got me for Christmas. And aside from, or in addition to like giving yourself a hug, you can kind of use like a weighted blanket or a weighted plushie and just something like that to like provide some sensory input that's like comforting. That can help as well. So those are some of the things. Another thing is like I have one musical artist who I listen to all the time, and her music is just it's just it for me. It's one of my things that just it can calm me, it distracts me, it helps. So if I'm in the middle of a trigger, sometimes it's hard to like redirect myself out of it. But if I can turn on music, turn down the light, that kind of thing, and just kind of ride it out in a safe place, that's the best I can do sometimes.
Some things that I do for when I am triggered or have been triggered, because sometimes I don't realize I'm triggered until after the fact. Some of them include like tapping, hypnosis, going out for a walk, going out for a swim, getting under the blankets, hiding in my room. It might not always be the very best thing for everybody else around me, but sometimes that is what I need to feel better until the moment has passed.
So there have been periods of time where I like get really like specific trying to figure things out because like I write about my experiences online, and this is something I wrote about a long time ago. And I focused it changed how I focused on things because I was trying to quantify how I like went with certain triggers, and now it's always what I do. But I kind of focus on what sense is affected or what could like quickly draw it out, because some of my triggers are from smells or from things like that. So if I can like very quickly figure out what caused that, counteracting it was one way I did it. Or even if I'm just feeling gross, like calming scents or calming taste or like something that makes me happy or a little like joyful. Like I think everyone has like a favorite snack that's just a little pick me up, I guess, something like that. And I would kind of approach it that way, from like having soft things or like the things you can squeeze for like a touch thing, or like even Rubik's cubes where I can like focus on something else. My phone is always a big one, like using it for music, for like Sudoku if I just need to focus on something other than my head and thoughts for a little while. But I also know like when it comes to being reactive, one thing that I have found that is like probably one of the harder parts for me is like in a way flowing with it. Like I grew up trying to teach myself to like I guess stop being triggered, to like just stop it in its track and repress it, and to just like push it to the back of my head and just pretend I was fine and that it didn't happen. So now if I'm in a safe space or have that like minute to sit with it, the best thing that I've been able to do is kind of give myself that space, kind of like what Angie said, where it's like hide in your bed if you need to and kind of just feel it and get through it. So whether that's, you know, writing it out, just sitting and feeling it, hiding away. I hide at a national park that's not too far from my house and just avoid people for like half a day to a whole day if I need to, and then I can get like nature, and it feels more productive sometimes than, you know, them knowing I'm hiding in my bedroom. They don't have to know where I'm hiding if I leave the house, and things like that. But it's just giving myself the grace to deal with it, or trying to find something that works for me. I know like lavender has always been my safe smell, so I have lavender everything that like just calms me down. But the one best reactive thing that I learned a long time ago, but haven't had to use for a long time, but I think is a good thing. If you have anxiety attacks or things where your like heart race is actively increasing, something that you can do is take an ice pack or something really cold on your wrists, and it will help slow your heart rate when you can't. And that was something that was like a lifesaver when I worked a very stressful job, because I'd be stuck in my office having a panic attack from being triggered, not even having the chance to process. So I actually kept like some of the breakable things that get cold or ice packs around as one of my like go-to. It kind of like a sensation change, helps calm my heart rate, and it gave me something to do when I kind of felt like I was just stuck hiding away, hoping none of my coworkers realized I felt like I was losing my mind in the like next room. So that was one of the things that I used a lot then.
Okay, reactive solutions that I use, one that I really love is visual journaling. And for me, that's helpful because I can open any notebook and start to draw or color, and whatever comes out, comes out. A walk for me is extremely helpful, like I said before, tea, a warm bath, showers as well. I think I've gotten to the point where I used to see myself as if I was triggered, it would be this really negative thing, and that would almost set me off more because I felt shame and guilt for being triggered. And so I really tried to change my language on what it meant to be triggered and really started to say, okay, what is my body trying to communicate to me right now? Or what is my brain trying to communicate to me? And instead of using triggered, use it as communication. And that helped me along my journey when I was in those reactive places, instead of being, oh my gosh, I'm triggered, and then I'm going to trigger myself more. It's okay, this is happening. What is being communicated, and what do I need in this moment to help me calm back down?
Well, everybody here has shared some really cool toolkit tools. So I would just say one of the best things that I've done is like allow myself to follow other survivors that they didn't necessarily have to go through like the same thing as me, but just people who've been through something similar. I feel like following other survivors has been helpful because not only do they have tips and tricks, but it's really validating to know that like you're not alone, because all of this journey, this healing journey, however long it is, it can be lonely. And especially when you're going through all this, like being triggered or dissociating or just going through the symptoms of what has happened to you when surviving it. So to see other survivors post and like just keep up with them, like it doesn't always have to be all happy-go-lucky stuff either. Like it's just nice to know that you're not alone. And like supporting other survivors too is one way that I've supported myself. Like volunteering with nonprofits that help survivors and stuff like that makes me feel like I've gotten some of my agency back, because I can't like prevent sexual violence from happening. I wish I could, but I certainly will be there for survivors if and when they go through that, you know? So I'm happy to share whatever tools I have with other survivors. And I know that it's been the same for me, like on Instagram and other social media. Like I found a lot of friends all over America, and not even just America, England too, that are fellow survivors. And it's just really nice to have that community.
My advice for other survivors building a toolkit would be to just follow your interest. A lot of these things like yoga, working out, tarot, art, those were just interests that cultivated throughout my life. And then when you find out, oh, there's a way that you can heal from it, or, you know, you can grow from your interests, that's, you know, it's fun. And because it doesn't always have to be dark and sad and scary. It will be at times, but it doesn't always have to be that way. Finding a community or a group like this has been tremendously helpful for me. I have been looking for a group of other people who understood what I have been through and what I am still going through because of these things that have happened. And knowing that there are other people that I can talk to with no judgment has been just amazing. So finding a group is, I would say, the biggest thing.
I would say like the greatest tips I can like have is like to be considerate with yourself as things change, and, you know, understanding if maybe something doesn't work one day, or if your healing looks different at a different point in your life, and what that means for you changes. But also, and like we've touched on it a lot, with like, you know, a lot of the things we do being our personal interests and being stuff like that, but like just finding joy itself can be a great part of healing, right? Like it doesn't have to be about healing, it doesn't have to be for healing, but being able to find joy for yourself through the things you do in itself is healing. So that's something to always consider, outside of all of these tricks and everything. If you're happy with something you're doing, that is amazing and a great part of the process.
I would say just remember that healing isn't linear, and everybody has their own process. And throughout that process, give yourself grace. Some things are going to work for you, some things aren't. I would say, even more than taking a mental note of what works for you, write it down, because there are things that are going to work and you're going to love them. And in the moment, you may forget. So keep track of those. And some days maybe they won't work again, but at the same time, at least you've got some of your tools there ready for you when you need them.